Well, we have a special guest joining the podcast today, a good friend of the pod who also joined us in January, coming back for a second time. We haven't scared him off quite yet. TCU coach Sonny Dykes. Sonny, thanks for joining us, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's so funny. I don't even remember that in January because there was a lot going on then. You know what I mean? I was trying to find a place to live and learn my players' names and get my kids in school and all that. So I'll remember this one, but I don't even remember the first one.
That's okay, man. I know it's a lot to put together a team and a staff when you're getting everything going at a new job, but you're sitting here 9-0. You're leading the Big 12. You're a top 10 team in the college football playoff rankings. You got a big game against Texas this weekend. So I'll start by asking the most important question. How does one acquire a Hypno Toad hoodie?
Hey, you got to know somebody. That's for sure.
Drop the link, Sonny. We want to buy it, man.
Yeah,
I can't be the first person to tell you that at this point.
I'll tell you the funny thing, the way that happened was, and again, we have some really smart, kind of savvy young people on our creative staff and in that office. And, the Hypno Toad thing, I've noticed it for the first time during basketball season. I was at some basketball games and all of a sudden on the highlights, there's this like strange, weird thing happening. And it's got, Gene Wilder from Frankenstein, Young Frankenstein. It's got Gene Wilder from Young Frankenstein on it. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. And then it just continued to get weirder and weirder, but it seemed to, pump the crowd up. And then, obviously it carried over to football and in a couple of games where it was close, they played it on the board and we kind of seized control of the game. And then all of a sudden it became a thing. And so, one day before practice, these guys walk in and say, hey, wear this sweatshirt to practice today. So I wear the sweatshirt to practice. And the next thing I know, I walk in after practice and I've got like hundreds of messages on my phone about what, the sweatshirt. And I'm like, okay, what's going on with this thing? So anyway, it happened and it's kind of cool. And they've done our marketing people have done a really cool job of creating a buzz around it. And something that again, it's funny. Our players kind of believe in it, and I'm starting to become a little bit of a believer myself.
Yeah, I was there on Saturday when you guys beat Texas Tech, and when that video played at Amon Carter Stadium, the crowd got pretty loud, and then all of a sudden you guys started scoring touchdowns. Like, that's not a coincidence, is it?
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidence, and so there's some kind of power there. I don't know what it is, but there's something.
Sonny, the hoodies you've been wearing lately, they're getting a lot of attention. You got to put them in your team store. You guys would probably just double revenue for the season if you did it. How has it been as your life as a fashion icon here this fall?
Yeah. It's been a little bit unusual. That's not, I've had a lot of job descriptions in my life, and fashion icon has never been one of them. So, hey, we all get to live out our fantasy roles, I guess, at certain times in our life. And maybe that's been one of mine that I never knew.
Sonny, at this point in the season, I know it's a grind and it's, you're just trying to go game to game and all that, but and the pressure obviously is kind of building in terms of just what you guys are accomplishing. How much fun is this team having right now?
You know what? It's been a blast. I mean, every team has a different personality. And so, you always remember, specific teams for specific things. And this group, it's going to be fun when we have a chance to look back on all this because, this group just loves to play. You know what I mean? They love football. They're kind of blue collar guys. And they really, really like each other, and they get along well. And, the guys there's a kind of a special bond on this team that a lot of teams don't have. And it's been fun to just be a part of it, really, because I mean, they really, really, really do invest in each other, and they're incredibly unselfish. And this group is cool because, the best players on the team are also some of our best leaders. And that's not always the case. And most of the time, not the case. And they're just an unselfish team. So because of that, I think the guys are having fun and we've had some success. But I think the biggest thing is really that they believe in each other. They trust each other. They're committed to each other. They don't want to let the guy next to them down. And I think that's what's made it so much fun. It's just, to see young people really, buy into each other and sacrifice for each other. And It's been a blast to be a part of it.
I know that I'm sure there were some hints in fall camp that you saw that kind of tipped you off that, hey, this team might actually be pretty darn good. Was there a game this season that you think back on, you point to, that you kind of got a sense of just how this was going to go, just like kind of how different this team might be?
Yeah, as you said, I think probably 15 practices in, I remember walking in one day talking to Malcolm Kelly, our wide receiver coach, and going, Malcolm, I actually think we have a chance to have a good team, and he felt the same way. I think he's kind of like, yeah, I've been around some good teams, and this has the makings of having a good team. Now, you know how that goes. I had no idea how we would handle adversity. I had no idea, if we could stay healthy at key positions, just all the stuff that has to happen, for you to be the 7th or 8th picked team in your league, and win a bunch of games. And so, we had to have some things fall our way. But I think the big thing we started to do is get a little bit of confidence and start to believe in each other and play better collectively than we are individually. And I think probably the Oklahoma game, we really got off to a good start, jumped out fast. And then Oklahoma kind of answered, and then we just kept coming. And I think at that point, our guys walked off the field, that Saturday and said, okay, we just did that against a really good team, and we think we can play better than we did. And so I think that was probably an eye opener for everybody, just of what we were capable of.
Well, it's so funny the way that this kind of shifts now, where you're trying to, achieve, you're trying to build as much as you can in year one and get the most out of this team. And now the conversation kind of shifts to this sort of bigger deal of the playoff and all the postseason and all that. Obviously you said on Saturday, you felt like your team came out a little tight, and there's a lot of tension that comes with being undefeated. As the week goes on and the stakes kind of continue to rise, like how have you handled that so far, and kind of how do you like the way your staff is going about that with your players?
Yeah. Well, I do think I think it's probably a little bit emotionally draining, or certainly can be. And so, what we've tried to do is just get our guys to not pay attention to it. We don't really talk about it much. Our approach has been kind of a day-to-day. Let's go out and have a good day of practice and see where that takes us. And, we talked about today, you just got to keep filling your tank up. You know what I mean? And you got to fill it up with a good practice, and you got to, weird as it is, you got to recover well. You got to be smart about what you do off the field and what you eat and how you hydrate and the number of treatments you get and how much film do you watch on your own. And, just all those things are a way of putting a little bit of gas in the tank. And then what we talked about is, look, on Saturday, let's go out and empty the tank. Let's make sure there's nothing left. And then you got to fill it up again the next week and do it all over again. And I think our guys understand that. And I don't think they're going to do anything different. We haven't talked about conference standings once. We haven't talked about bowl games. We haven't talked about, rankings or any of that stuff, because we don't really have any control over that. And so our deal is, look, let's control what we can, which is the preparation, and go play hard on Saturday and see where that takes us. And so, I think when you do have that approach, it does take a little bit of enormity off of you. You don't have that drowning feeling that you get sometimes by expectations and all that. And so we were lucky. We had really no expectations of having a good team when the year began. And that kind of allowed us to not focus on that stuff and just focus on improving and getting better.
Yeah, on that note, Sonny, you mentioned it earlier on Tuesday at your press conference that even the guys are getting them a little extra sleep, just getting them up 30 minutes later. How is that balance of getting enough work in while not wearing them down and things like that?
Well, it's a fine line. You know what I mean? I mean, there's always the fine line that we have to walk. And I think those are the biggest decisions that we make in season as coaches is, okay, we have to push these guys as far as we can, but what's pushing them too much? And when do you kind of cut your nose off to spite your face in terms of, practicing too hard and all of a sudden showing up on Saturday and you have a worn out team, whether it's physically, emotionally, whatever the case may be. And so you just have to balance all that. And, we got to talk about it constantly, and we got to do everything we can to help our guys recover. And a big part of that is just the players believing that's happening. And so, we gave them Sunday off this week. We watched our tape, and we usually practice on Sunday, and we gave them a chance to rest a little bit. They got an extra hour of sleep because of the daylight savings time, went off. And then, we're hoping they get 2 hours more of cumulative sleep this week by starting a little bit later. So all that stuff adds up. I think it all makes a difference in how you perform and how you are able to finish games. And I think that's been one of our secrets for finishing the way that we have is our guys truly believe that as the game goes along, we get stronger and we get faster and we get more physical. And a big part of being able to do that is just believing that you can do it.
Now, I know a lot of tension on this team has been around this offense because of the talent you guys have there. Obviously, Max Duggan's been a great story, and you guys have scored a lot of points. Kendra Miller's been great, but last week against Texas Tech, your defense really seemed to carry the day. Certainly in the first half, and I felt like I think you agree, probably the most complete performance your defense has had in some time, maybe since September. What kind of growth have you seen on that side of the ball under new defense coordinator Joe Gillespie, and just kind of what are you seeing from that group right now?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing probably honestly Saturday was the most healthy we've been on defense. You know, we've had some safeties that have kind of been in and out. We've had a hard time keeping that group together, and we really had a full complement of our safeties. And, you know, we play with 3 safeties, and so those positions are really important for us. We ask those guys to do a lot when it comes to run fits, to coverage things, to communication and adjustments on the back end. And so that position is really important. So we got those guys back healthy. And then our 3 linebackers have been pretty banged up for a number of weeks. And I think they're healthier right now than they've been in a long time. And so, you know, that's going to be important for us as we move forward. I think our defense gets more confident really every single game that we play. I think, you know, they're still learning a new scheme, and it's a different scheme, and they're adjusting and getting more comfortable. And I think Joe's learning what works and what doesn't. And you know, and there's always a feeling out process. And I think they're just starting to hit their stride. So I anticipate them playing well Saturday. You know, it's going to be a big challenge. Obviously, Texas has a great offense, a lot of weapons, you know, and they've started really fast this year. That's been one of the things that they've been able to do is, you know, get out to a lead on pretty much everybody they've played. And so, you know, we're going to need to play our best on Saturday for sure.
Now, Sonny, you mentioned earlier kind of the marketing and what you guys have done from a staff standpoint and just getting the message out on your team. After you guys beat Texas Tech, a lot of activity on social media. I know there was a lot of activity going back and forth between these two teams back to the offseason with the cactus and Brian Carrington and all that. And, you know, your AD, Jeremiah Donati with the tickets and all that. How much do you like to lean into that rivalry stuff, or are you staying out of it? Kind of what's your approach and all that?
Yeah, you know, it's funny when all that happened. I was on vacation, and so I was kind of.
Where were you?
I was in Cabo, of all places, okay. surrounded by cactus.
Yeah.
But we were, you know, I was on vacation and kind of honestly didn't really understand what happened or what was going on or why everybody was upset. I mean, so I'm still not completely up to speed. I know you're not going to believe that, but I'm kind of like, now what happened and why is, you know, and so anyway, I'm late to the party just like I always am, you know, and I'm the last guy that really knows what's going on. Yeah, but look, I mean, there's a good rivalry between Texas Tech and TCU. And I think, you know, there's a good rivalry between TCU and Baylor. And I think those are important as the new Big 12, you know, continues to evolve. I think it's going to be important for, you know, for those teams to number one, be good teams. And number two, to embrace those rivalries, because, you know, we're going to lose, you know, some big brands and some brands that have been traditional rivals for a number of schools. And I think that focus has to shift to the remaining teams. And so I think a little bit of that's always healthy. And I think, you know, I'm lucky. I work for, I think, the best AD in college sports. And the reason I do is because I think he gets it. You know, I think Jeremiah understands, you know, number one, he reports to the student athletes, you know, and so his primary job is take care of our players first, take care of our coaches second, take care of our fans third, and then take care of the opposing fans fourth. And I think he sees the value in that and understands that that's what he's supposed to do. He's not supposed to go out of his way, you know, to accommodate other people's fan bases or whatever the case may be. And he's supposed to protect our players and our coaches and our brand and you know, and in the university. And so, you know, he does an unbelievable job of doing that. And I really appreciate him. He gets it. You know, there's a lot of guys that don't. There's a lot of guys that think that they're supposed to take care of the opposing fan base first and then their own fan base second, and then players and coaches and everybody else. And he certainly understands his job and does it incredibly well.
They call it home field advantage for a reason, right?
You know what they do. And hey, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make sure it is a home field advantage, and you got to give credit to Texas Tech. I mean, they got a big fan base and a strong following, and you want to make it hard on those guys, and he did, and I'm appreciative of it.
Sonny, you've watched the Big 12 from afar over the years. Now that you're a head coach in it and you're going through this slate week to week, and I don't think there's a bad coach in the conference this year. I mean, you're seeing, I'm sure the challenge every week in terms of preparing has been pretty great.
Yeah.
Just how have you kind of sized up the conference, and also just the likelihood that you're going to see one of these teams a second time?
Yeah, I think, I mean, look, this you look around the league, and I mean, they're just really, really good coaches and guys. What I appreciate about this league is that there's guys that have done it a lot of different places. You know what I mean? It's not a real silver spoon league. In other words, what I mean by that is some of these guys, you look at Lance Leopold, and he won at the
Whitewater.
Yeah, Whitewater, and then the consistent winner in Buffalo. You know what I'm saying? Buffalo's been a power for a long time, and Lance went there and won. And so, no, I'm joking, obviously, but, he's won at places that are hard to win at.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys have done that. I mean, Chris Kleiman's done the same thing. I mean, he had tremendous success at a smaller level, and I appreciate those guys that have had to work their way up. And those guys typically are really, really good coaches. And you just look around the league, and a lot of those guys have done it. And then, you got a guy like Mike Gundy. Mike's 17 straight bowl games. You know what I mean? I mean, how many programs can say that? Just have that kind of consistency, through all the changes in the Big 12, through all the highs and lows in college football, through COVID, through all the stuff. None of that stuff has mattered. He's figured out a way to get his team to a bowl game every single year. And so you just look around the league, and man, there's just a lot of really good coaches and guys that have had to work their way up. And I really have a ton of respect and appreciation for the guys that have done that.
Big game this week, as you alluded to with Texas. College game day will be there. Game obviously factors in the Big 12 race. I think you're probably in the Big 12 title game if you win this game. This one probably means a lot. How do you just approach this week with your team?
You know what? Just kind of the business as usual, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they obviously know all that. I mean, they know it's college game day. We don't need to tell them that. I mean, they know that we're the only undefeated team in the league. I don't need to tell them that. I mean, I think they know all that stuff and probably know it better than I do, honestly, in terms of all the different scenarios and whatever. But, they know it's Texas too. And they know that it's a good football team and a talented team. And they know that there's always a little bit of extra motivation when you play against the big brands of college football. It's just the way it is. And so our guys will be excited to play. Their guys will be excited to play. I think it's a big statement game for Texas as well. So I anticipate both teams, playing their best football. I anticipate it being a hard-fought, physical, tough 60-minute football game. And that's the way our guys like it. That we talk about that all the time. I love to win pretty. I think that's pretty awesome to do that. But I also really love winning kind of ugly. And we don't mind winning ugly. And the most important thing is just figure out a way to win. And so, our guys will keep swinging, and we're going to play 60 minutes and see what happens. And again, we know we're going to have to play well, and we know that we're going to have to, to compete as hard as we can. But our guys have a ton of confidence. If we do that, then we'll come out on the winning end.
For sure. Sonny, an obvious question here. Knowing that Gary Patterson's on that other sideline playing probably a big role in their preparation and his knowledge of your personnel, does that factor in at all to how your staff prepares for this game?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think any of us, completely understand, what coach's role is. And I know they would certainly be fools not to listen to him. I mean, he's one of the best defensive coaches, I think, in college football history. His success is pretty much unparalleled in a lot of ways. And so, I'm sure that Gary's had a chance to look at us. I'm sure he knows our personnel. But at the same time, it's always doesn't really matter what we know as coaches. It only matters what our players know. And so I think like anything else, they've got a really good staff defensively. Their defensive coordinator was the defensive coordinator at Washington when I was at Cal, Pete Kilowaski, and he's really, really good at what he does. Very smart, They had the best defense in the Pac-12, hands down, when he was at Washington. So he's a really good football coach. And so they've got a number of really good, experienced football coaches that'll all have I'm sure, a role in stopping us, but certainly can't change what we do. I mean, we're going to have to, to do what we do, execute at a high level, play really hard, try to keep them off balance a little bit, not get too comfortable and settled in defensively. And so, that's always going to be important for us. And then just go out and do your job and get our guys to play fast and execute. If we do that, then the rest of it will take care of itself.
Now, Sonny, Texas beat UTEP in men's basketball on Monday night. Does that make this game even more personal for you?
I saw that last night. Yeah, I got to see some of the game. It doesn't really for me. It does for my wife, Kate. It certainly makes it a little more personal for Kate. Was proud of Joe, though. Those guys, they got a young team. At one time in late in the game, they showed the number of starts the Texas players had. It was like, a lot of those guys had 130 starts, and some of those UTEP players had their first. So anyway, I thought they competed hard, and his teams always do. They're always well coached, play great defense, and really compete hard. So I'm excited about them. But Chris Beard's got a good squad, man, and they're going to be a handful in the Big 12.
I saw your father-in-law said he hasn't decided which game he's going to yet Saturday, because UTEP's got a game Saturday night as well.
Yeah. Daughters usually went out, so my guess is he's going to be in Lubbock or in Austin.
Sonny, obviously, you and I had visited a lot over the years, and you've shared a lot of words of wisdom and lessons that your dad, the late great Spike Dykes, Texas Tech coach and legend, shared with you that you learned from him over the years. What are some of the lessons that you still hold dear as you progress in your own coaching career?
Well, I think the thing that my dad was really good at was relationships. I think that was what kind of his. I think as coaches, we all have our strengths. I think that some guys are really good with X's and O's, and some guys are really good at overseeing a program and seeing the big picture. And, to me, my dad's best trait was his relationships that he had with people. He was good at those. And, he was good at those with his coaches. He was good at those with the players, most importantly. And, and there was a side to my dad, really, that I didn't know that well when I was, growing up, that I had a chance to kind of see when he became a coach. And, my dad was pretty strange. I had no idea, but my dad was a letter writer, wrote a ton of people letters. And I couldn't tell you how many people after my dad passed, said, look, your dad wrote me letters through the years and really encouraged me. And just stuff like that I really had no idea that he did. And so it was eye-opening for me. I think he saw his role as somebody who was supposed to make those people around him better, and however he could do that, whether it was, just providing some stability or some fatherly advice or whatever the case may be. And then through the years, I think just supporting people when they needed it the very most. My dad just seemed to always show up at the important times in people's lives. And so probably that's what I learned as much as anything else, was just the power of relationships and at the end, how important that is. And I just think that's, what football is. It's a big team. And I think you've got to figure out how to make people better and how to be supportive of one another. And that's the hard part of all this. Everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's got something that they're trying to accomplish, but you've got to just figure out a way to get people to give that up and to realize, look, the team is more important than the individual. And my dad's teams, I think, always had that going for them, is that they were, really better collectively than they were individually. And so that's one of the things that I learned, just the power of the team and how important that is. And it all begins with trust and relationships and just being supportive of each other.
Now, earlier in your career, you got to chance to coach at Texas Tech. I knew you were on that staff with Mike Leach and Dana Holgerson and a lot of other really, really great coaches. Bruce Feldman did a story about it a couple of years ago, actually. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, and I've talked to Dana about this, but I never got your take on it, was the quarterbacking skills of one Lincoln Riley. Because before Lincoln Riley was a coach, he was a quarterback on the roster.
Yeah.
But Dana, this is what Dana told me. He said, He was awful. It was so bad that me and Sonny Dykes called an intervention with Mike Leach. We said, what are you doing? Team morale is low because you're giving this kid reps. Our receivers are running routes knowing there's zero chance the ball is going to get to them. So I ask you, do you concur with Dana Holgerson's scouting report on Lincoln Riley, the quarterback?
I'm a lot more politically correct than Dana. Lincoln was better than that. Lincoln was not going to challenge Graham Harrell for the starting quarterback job. And I think Lincoln was self-aware to understand that. And Lincoln was certainly smart enough to realize, you know what, I think I'm going to take a different path. I don't know that NFL quarterback's in my future, but maybe head coach at Oklahoma and USC is in my future. And so, yeah, like I said, he wasn't going to challenge Graham for the job. That's for sure. But we all knew pretty early that he was a smart guy. And, and the thing about the Rileys, Garrett's the offensive coordinator for us now. They're mature people. They're mature, focused people, and I think those qualities have obviously served them well.
All right, last one for you here, Sonny. I don't think you've been asked this question yet this year. I don't think. Okay, tell me about the Grizzlies and their ULL Pee Wee Championship.
Yeah. So it's a big game tonight. I will not be there, unfortunately, but my wife will be live streaming it so I can watch it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, my son is on a team. So the Grizzlies won the game, the championship in the spring. And so he's on a new team now, and they're in the playoffs right now. And so they're one game away from advancing to the finals, and he turned 6 and he's having a ball playing. But yeah, the Grizzlies won it all last year, and it was a blast to be a part of it and to watch it. And now they're going for back-to-back championships. Now they're the Padres this go around.
Okay.
But the Grizzlies were a squad to be reckoned with, last spring for sure.
People forget about your baseball career. Has that helped in coaching up your kid?
I don't know. I think probably not. Because it's funny. It's like, it's weird because I think sometimes when you're, when you play college sports or you're a college coach, it's really hard to coach youth sports because you don't really. So I think I'm just a terrible coach. I think I would be a terrible flag football coach. And I think I'm an awful Little League baseball coach because I don't really, my expectations are kind of out of whack. You know what I mean? And it's like, and so I don't.
These 6-year-olds, they're just not coachable enough for your standard,
they just gotta, they got to eat better and get more sleep and work harder in the weight room. And, they just got to do more. And so, yeah, but it's fun to watch, but I stay as far away from it as I can because, it's like this year's team. If I try to get involved with that, I'm going to completely destroy any chances they have of having a good youth baseball team. So I don't even mess with it. I
busy man. I get it.
Guys that know what they're talking about handle it.
Well, he's a pretty darn good football coach. There you have it. TCU coach Sonny Dykes. Sonny, thanks so much for taking some time. I know it's a busy week. Appreciate you joining us on the podcast, and good luck this weekend to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Good to see you guys as always. Thank you, guys. Appreciate what you guys do for college football.
Thanks, Sonny.
Okay. All right, guys.